Hello, everyone. My name is Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks. And this is Lighting the Way with Beth Green and Friends. And my friends will be coming on a little bit later. The format of this show is that I make my commentary. Hi there, everybody. My name is Beth Green. And this is really odd because I had turned off the microphone so I wouldn't make any noise. And then I turned it on. But evidently, when I turned it on, it turned off. So I'm starting all over again. So if you saw my mouth flapping and you didn't hear anything, that's because of that. Anyway, here we are. My name is Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks. And it's this program is Lighting the Way with Beth Green and Friends. And what our format is that I start with a opening commentary, and then people join me, and then they make comments on the commentary, and they don't know what I'm going to talk about, so it's all very spontaneous. And I don't have a script either, so that's spontaneous too. So today I'm going to talk about what is personal and societal evolution, and are we really doing it? Now, you may say, well, everybody knows that we're evolving. The universe is evolving. The stars are, everybody knows that. Well, I want to talk about what is evolution and what looks like evolution. And of course, this is all definition. I'm going to be defining it in a certain way. And then hopefully you're going to see why this is critically important, not only to our world, but to us personally. So let's get going. So, what is evolution? Well, probably the we probably first heard about evolution when we're talking about the evolution of the species. They say, oh, we went from apes to this to that to the other thing. Here we are. And what caused the evolution, this with that famous Darwinian theory, is that there were stressors in the environment, and that caused certain characteristics to be better adaptively than others, or maybe even caused those evolutions to happen. And from that, there was an evolution. Now, that means there is a real change. I mean, a real change. So I want to talk about this, and I want to make a distinction between a real change and just something that's going along and seems to be changing, but isn't really. For example, let's say you throw a ball and it's going on a trajectory, and you can see how it's going, and then it goes like this, and then it goes down. Okay, there it is. There is the evolution of the path of that ball. Now, supposing a wind comes up, and all of a sudden, that ball isn't going into left field at all. It's going into right field or center field or wherever it's going. And or it boomerangs and it clobbers you in the head. And suddenly you know what evolution really looks like. That's a real change. It's a change of direction. And this is just my definition and how I'm explaining it. So I'm not asking you to agree to my definition. I want you just to look at why I'm raising this in this way. So, and let's say we have a game called basketball. You notice I'm talking about sports, which I know nothing about. And first I talked about biological evolution, which I also know nothing about, but I do know something about human and societal evolution. Well, I'll get there. Okay. So when I was a little girl, I remember watching basketball, and it was very cool. And then years later, I saw a basketball game, and it was so violent. I couldn't believe it was the same game. That was a change in the quality of that game. And that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about when something changes its very nature. But you could say that the seeds of that violence were always there because it was competitive. I mean, you don't expect, if all of a sudden everybody came onto the football field and they were all polite to each other, you would say, oh my God, what an evolution. Everybody came in and they decided to love each other and play flag football and hug. So I'm talking about a change in quality, a qualitative change, rather than just something going along the way it's been going along, and it just becomes more and more what it already is in its nature. For example, the capitalist system was always based on profit, which was gained from profiting from the labor of others. Well, that's been there from the beginning. But today you see profit on profit on profit on hedge funds, on, I mean, you know what I mean? This capitalism has become more and more and more still the same thing. Income inequality is ghastly, but it's still based on do the best you can to make money off other people's labor or brains or whatever. That's labor too. So now a lot of people, they say, oh, right, I grew up with a dream that I was going to become a ballet dancer for the New York City Ballet. And I hope there still is a New York City Ballet, but, and let's say that was your dream. And you worked and worked and worked and worked, and you became a ballet dancer for the New York City Ballet. So that is a realization of a trajectory you are already on. That's the path you are on. Now, supposing you started out life saying, I'm going to become a ballerina, and at the age of 15, you broke your leg and became a nuclear physicist, that would be something that came out of the blue that changed the trajectory of your life if you could make an adaptation. And that's kind of what I'm talking about evolution. Now, hear me out. Many of us think we are evolving because we are doing more of the same thing, or we're just moving slightly to the left or to the right or up or down or something. And I would not argue with you. You could call that evolution. None of this is set in stone. But supposing you were like me, you were an activist, and then at the age of 35, you had a psychic spiritual awakening and you became like a different person. Instead of going out there fighting for equal rights or for this, that I started to focus on the inner voice, on inner guidance, on spirituality. That was like, whoa, that was not expected. Now, maybe some genius could have predicted that, but I certainly couldn't have. Okay, so now are you getting what I am talking about? I'm talking about something that makes you completely throw out everything you've ever thought and done and that you thought was important. How many people do that? How many people want to do that? How many people are actually willing to do that? That is a revolutionary evolution, if you understand what I mean. What makes me sad is that people think they're growing and changing when they're actually carrying with them the same beliefs, the same assumptions, the same patterns that they had when they were infants. You think I'm nuts? I'm not. This is the reality. I'm a counselor as well as a spiritual activist. And I work with people and I see, however old you are, 20, 30, 40, 50, 70, 80, probably 90, you're still going at life with the same assumptions that you learned when you were an infant. How much of our thinking is based on the assumptions and the thinking of the people around us at that time when we were young, and even as we grew up, as we started adapting to other ways of thinking. But fundamentally, how many of us actually change. Is that important? You bet it's important, because most of us are trapped in behaviors that we started when we were infants. Believe it or not. You're born into a certain kind of family. There is, let's say, competition in their family. In the family, there's 6 siblings. You have to learn how to navigate a world where there's 6 siblings. Oh, are you going to be the smartest? Are you going to be the most bully like? Are you going to be the sweetest? Are you going to be the most needy? Are you going to be the most flattering to mom? You figure it out how you're going to survive in that environment. Similarly, as we go along in society, we have to figure out how we're going to survive in society. Most of us actually bring in those infantile patterns that we learned when we were just born, when we try to learn how to get our needs met in that society. Now, if you are an only child, you're in a different environment. You still have to get your needs met, but you have to get them met in a different way. So this is all unconscious. It's all unconscious for most of us. We don't see ourselves, certainly not when we're infants. Very few people have real awareness when they're very young. And then it becomes so habitual that we think it's just normal. So it's the same thing. You grow up in a society, let's say we grow up in a quote democracy, and we assume it's always going to be like that. Now, we're beginning to see that it may not always be like that. That's already changing right in front of our eyes because of the behaviors of certain people that are challenging that. But the rest of us have been like asleep at the wheel, thinking that, oh, well, democracy will last forever. That we think that capitalism will last forever. You know, every system comes into being at a certain time of history, and then it fades away, and often because of some cataclysmic, disastrous situation. Civilizations came and went because of probably a meteor or something, or a catastrophic climate change or something. Things happen, and you're in a different situation. But for most of us, these patterns that we developed as children and we perfected as teenagers, and as we went into the world and we became more and more and more exactly who we were before, and we think we're evolving. Okay, I'm not wearing these kind of clothes anywhere. I'm wearing those kind of clothes. Or, yes, I had this dream and I got there and I became a ballerina. Or, um, I really think that I'm changing my attitudes. But are you changing your attitudes? If you're born into a society that emphasizes um, competition, how many people change their attitude and begin to realize that competition is a way of being that isn't necessarily a part of being human? It isn't necessarily dominant. You could have been born into a society where people worked cooperatively, or you could have been born into a society where men were in charge of everything, or you could have been born into a society where women were in charge of everything. And everything that you're born into forms your idea of what is natural and what is real and who you are. And see, this is the most serious part of this. We get an idea of who we are from the feedback that we receive when we are very young. Very young children are getting messages from their parents, from the society. Oh, you're Black, you're second class. I remember in the day, because I'm 80 years old, that we would watch a television program and Blacks were always stupid on TV and in the movies. That changed through a big battle. But that was the assumption. So, that's what you believed. Unless you knew Black people and you knew they weren't stupid. or that you grew up in a family where it was assumed that men would be in charge, and then you just automatically, without even thinking about it, start deferring to men in your life. And it's a battle within yourself to stop doing it. Sometimes on the deepest subconscious level, you can't even overcome these conditionings, especially if they are reinforced. If what you learn in your family is reinforced in your neighborhood, is reinforced in your country, in the world, it gets more and more and more like, oh, this is nature, this is human nature. So when I say to you, what is personal and societal evolution, I'm talking about, what do we want to get rid of that we have inherited from our experience, from our conditioning, from what we're learning in school. I mean, look at the vast number of people who believe that immigrants are bad. They are not the people who actually have a lot of experience with immigrants, because people who have a lot of experience with immigrants know that immigrants are people. Some are good, some are bad, whatever. It is toxic, and it is toxic for us. We don't even notice the patterns that we have. We believe they are natural and that they are part of our nature as well as human nature. So I'm bringing this up today because we need some revolutionary evolution where we look at our patterns of reactions and responses and we question everything. Everything. And not only do we do that personally, but we do it socially and in our society. Our economy, can we bring some consciousness to it and say, is this really the best way? Is this really working? Is my behavior crying at a drop of a hat, for instance, to try to get the people around me to take care of me? Is that really serving my highest good? Certainly seems natural. Well, I'm sensitive, right? Maybe it's not just because you're sensitive. Maybe you learned that as a survival strategy. And remember, all of these strategies were related to our survival. How did we figure out that our needs were going to be met as children? So, with no further ado, I'm going to bring on my friends, and I'm going to do it one at a time. First, we have James Maynard, Lizzie Treehart,
Hi.
and Todd Benton. I finally figured out last time that if I just add the people, it keeps shifting, and it gets to be so. Anyway, um, I'm throwing this out tonight. We were actually in a group together this past weekend. I am a spiritual teacher as well as an intuitive counselor and a commentator, and I'm running an intuition training, consciousness training program. And we were talking about this this very topic personally. And somebody said we should talk about this on Wednesday.
You did. I did. Yes.
And I couldn't remember what it was, but one of the women who was in the group, I wrote to her and she said she had some notes, and she basically gave me an idea. We need to get honest about the reactions we have, the way that we've been socialized. And a real evolution is when we have a change that takes us in a different direction, where we have consciously chosen an evolution that typically biology takes care of. And, suddenly the species has evolved, you know, but we have to do this ourselves. So take it away. Who would like to share first? But they didn't know I was going to talk about this tonight. So, Todd.
Well, this is. Oh, we have a bit of an echo again. I don't know why that's happening.
The sound changed when Todd came on. It got airy.
We can't hear you at all, James.
I hear a dog.
Sorry.
So when I talk, I'm not hearing the echo now. Okay.
That's good.
I think we're good.
Okay, good. All right, excellent.
I was like, uh-oh, not last week again. Okay.
I still don't believe that I started out by turning off my microphone when I consciously turned it on. So
I saw you turn it on and I didn't see you turn it off. So it was weird. I was like, how the hell did that happen? But it did.
Your sound was there and then it wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
But I'm glad you saw my note. Okay. So it's only been 3 days because we had intuition training on Sunday. But I asked Christine how I'm doing because my big thing was, for everybody that wasn't there, I learned from my father to put people down. It was something that I didn't like that he did, but somehow I ended up doing it anyway because I just mimicked what he did. He didn't feel, great about himself. He acted like he was tough, macho guy, superstar, but he didn't really feel that way about himself. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had to behave that way. So he put people down, and that's what I learned. And I've been putting people down, pretty much my whole life. It's either I'm in my space and I'm Todd, or I'm this other guy that people can't stand because he's superior to everybody or thinks he's superior to everybody, right? So I haven't done it since Sunday, as far as I can tell. So that's evolution. I talked to Christine about it. Yeah, I talked to Christine about it today, and she's like, "You're doing pretty good." Christine's my wife, by the way, and she's the one who, gets the brunt of this behavior, of this lousy behavior that I learned. So, yeah.
That is so beautiful. I would like to add something to my commentary from the beginning.
Yes.
Which is, our work is about the process of becoming who we already are, who we really are. And what I didn't say in the beginning, as I was describing how our egoic behavior develops, like all these patterns we're talking about is how the ego develops, is these are all learned behaviors that we confuse with this is who I am. And what we're really trying to do is shed what is not natural. It is not natural for human beings to hurt each other and not realize that we need each other. It is natural to come together when there's a disaster. It is natural to come together in a potluck, bring what you have and take what you need. It's natural for children to care when somebody's crying, to go over and wipe their tears. That's natural. And I'm not saying that there isn't also some competition that is natural, but it's not at nearly the degree that we have it in the society. So we are losing our real nature. And the purpose of our work is to rid ourselves of patterns that actually block us from being who we really are on the inside. So somehow or other, when you were sharing that, Todd, you reminded me of that point because you're becoming more you. And how does it feel?
It feels good. I feel good about myself. I mean, it feels nice to not be like resentful and, just having the need to do that. Like I'm just happier,
It's fantastic.
So, yeah.
It's fantastic. Thank you. Who would like to share next? James.
Well, I think I've had several different evolutionary turns. I grew up in a very competitive situation, as most of us did. And so I strove to become a success in societal terms. So I was charging on into going to law school, and I wanted to become rich and successful. Then I met somebody who had just come out of the Peace Corps. And she just turned my head around completely. She says, "Oh my God, she cares more about other people than she does about herself. She's not competitive at all." And I wound up, when I graduated law school, instead of going for a big firm and earning big bucks, I joined the anti-poverty program, the legal services, to help people have free legal services. So that was a nice evolutionary change. And then I continued with my pattern of trying to be mentally astute. So that was still there. And so I went on a spiritual path, and I always wanted to be in the know, you know. And so my spiritual path consisted of knowledge and meditation and spiritual practices. Then I met Beth, and that was a huge stimulus for change for me because she had just written the book, Living with Reality. And it wasn't about being mental, it wasn't about meditating and being spiritually uplifted. It was about processing what's really going on inside of you and evolving and growing by changing. Like one of those changes, for example, is shifting from being competitive mentally to being more supportive. Like, why am I competing? I'll just contribute what I can. You contribute what you can, and we don't have to. I don't have to compete. I don't have to try to be one up. That's another pattern that I brought from my father. He always had to be one up on his wife, on my mother, and so I brought that into this relationship. But wait a minute, that doesn't work here. As a matter of fact, I needed a dose of humility to just recognize, okay, here's a person that's bringing forth a different kind of consciousness that's about processing hastening your evolution by processing what's going on inside of you subconsciously and consciously that's limiting. And so I've been working on that for these past almost 15 years now. And I've had lots of shifts and changes. So I feel like this has really accelerated my evolution in wonderful ways. Because now the evolution is more deep, more profound, more fundamental. When I first met Beth, I was very spacey, very ungrounded, but in my head. And I have learned not to be so spacey, to be more grounded, to be more real and more honest about the BS that I tell myself and I tell others, and try to pretend to be more than I am. And I get to work on that and get integrated with who I really am. And I'm feeling like Todd is saying, he feels more natural, he feels happier, and I do too.
That's absolutely great, James. That's great. You pointed out a couple of turning points in your life. And, it's not easy. Sometimes to turn takes an enormous will. I see a lot, and I don't want to be competing with other teachers. There are all kinds of teachers for all kinds of people, and people gravitate to what they need. Okay. But they'll say, okay, you should be a success. You should see yourself. You should visualize yourself as successful. We have a comment. Kenneth said hi to everyone. Well, hello there to you, Kenneth. So glad to have you. So, how can you overcome the obstacles to your success? Well, that may not be evolutionary for you. Maybe what you need to be doing is asking yourself what success really means and why do you have this need to be it. But I don't see that because I see a lot of people teaching you how to be more of what you already are, how to bring out more of what you already have so that you can continue in the same direction, but make more money doing it, or be more popular, or have more friends, or more followers on Facebook and YouTube. By the way, speaking of that, if you are on Facebook right now, please follow my page, my page. And if you are on YouTube right now, please subscribe to my channel and click the notification button if you want to, and like and love this show. But I'm not here to get you to do that. I mean, my life is not spent trying to figure out what can I say that will make people subscribe to my channel. I won't do that. And that kind of thing is not evolutionary. It is still buying into our societal emphasis on getting ahead, being successful, going back to the competition thing is, oh yeah, like my mother really dreamed that someday I would bring the whole family out of the working class, that I was going to go to college. And so was my brother and all of that stuff. And then I messed that all up because I ended up going to school to learn, not to get ahead. And so I really want to point this out to you. Oh, Amy says, this is a great topic, Beth. Thank you, Amy. I love it. So, Lizzie, do you think you could move your camera slightly to center yourself? I don't know if people on cell phones are having trouble seeing you because, so thank you. Okay, what would you like to share?
Well, I had trouble on Sunday and I'm still having trouble with it. As far as just becoming myself, there's such a strong resistance that I'm feeling. And I'm just wanting to go to sleep and I don't like it. I don't like feeling like this. I'd rather be myself. I don't like how a part of me is really resisting it. But there it is.
Well, the first thing I would say to you is that instead of saying a part of me is resisting this, you would say my programming is fighting this.
Okay, my programming is fighting this.
Now, do you see the difference?
So I'm not identifying with it.
Exactly. Why are you identifying with something that isn't natural to you? I've seen you be natural and you're delightful and everybody loves you and you love yourself and you're happy.
Mm-hmm.
And then you feel obliged for whatever reason that we can't go into on this show, those are all good things for counseling. It's like, well, where did I get this pattern? It's like, oh my God. I mean, you're so afraid to be empowered, but you know something? So am I. You may not think so, but I have been looking at why I've been afraid. And in my case, James helped me with that today. We did a little counseling session and he did a great job. He helped me. And we were looking at what it was in me that made me shut myself down. And so I'm determined to get over that because I want my strength. I want to have my vitality. I want to have my life force. I don't want to spend the rest of my life in bed the way I have been for quite a while now. So I want to see, so all of us have these unconscious patterns. You're still here on the planet, Lizzie. You still have time. But the first thing is don't say a part of me is fighting this because there is none of you fighting it. If that were true, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here because you know you're going to get challenged. And those people who show up are the ones who say, I want to get challenged because I know that the way that I have been is hurting me and other people, and I'm not fulfilling my potential, and neither is this society, I must say. So what do you think of that? Yes.
I can't say because I'm really struggling not falling asleep.
Right. Well, just remember. Okay, make a note. What were we talking about when you started to fall asleep?
I was falling asleep before the show, so.
Oh. Are you sure that it's the show then that what we're talking?
It might not. It just is, consecutive nights of not enough sleep. So
I see. Okay. Amy says distinguishing patterns as contrasted with that's just me is very useful, but those patterns are not always easy to let go of, as Lizzie says. That is exactly right. And you know something? The more, I love what you said, Amy. Thank you for that comment. And I want to remind you, if you are on my private personal Facebook page, if you make a comment, I will not see it during the show. I only see comments from my public page and from YouTube. The more you're confronted by reality, which is contradicting your story, the more you shut down. Look at the people today who are looking at certain political figures. I don't want to name them, certain political figures. And everything that they're seeing goes against what they believed about this person. And look what it's taking for people to say, oh my God, he's a liar. Instead, they say, well, he just hasn't done this yet. He hasn't made the economy great yet. He hasn't done this yet. He hasn't done that yet. I mean, I've seen it in some of the comments. It's fascinating. So the more you're invested in a pattern or in a belief or in a relationship, the harder it is to break out and see it for what it is. I mean, many of us have been in abusive relationships, and maybe some part of that relationship made us feel safe, and we're terrified to let go of the relationship because we're afraid that we will lose our safety. And safety is like the number one thing for humans. You know, we have to eat, we need shelter, we need safety. It's really important to us. So if we have a certain figure in our personal or political life that represents safety to us, we don't want to know. We don't want to know. So the more good things happen to you, Lizzie, that contradict your belief that you need to be small and weak, for example, if that were something that, the more that happened, the more frantically those patterns, or what I call the egoic patterns, that these are all created by the ego, are going to fight back. And the more you're going to fall asleep until you finally break through. So there it is.
Hope that happens soon.
It's, well, if I might suggest, say it's already happening. It's already happening. James was talking about some transitions he was making. Todd was talking about, do you think they happened overnight?
No.
You know that phrase that I got about change is slow,
Nonlinear and sudden.
nonlinear, and sudden. So you've got that heat under the pot, and you're boiling that water, and it doesn't boil, and it doesn't boil, and it doesn't boil, and it's still water with the flame underneath it. And then one day, one moment, in an instant, it boils. And then everybody said, well, look, it didn't take long to boil. It was only about 30 seconds. Yeah, right. 30 seconds and 40 years. So, see, the discouragement that you're expressing is just part of the old syndrome. See, oh, if you can get discouraged enough, then maybe you'll just stop fighting. But you are already changing. You just haven't boiled yet.
Okay.
All right. Does anyone on YouTube or Facebook want to make a comment? Put it in the chat while we're still here. Or anyone else in the group tonight want to share something on this topic. And please share this program with somebody. Break a pattern. If you never share Lighting the Way, I know many of you do, but if you don't, say, you know, I wonder why I don't share that. I agree with it, but I don't share it. I wonder why. Am I afraid people won't like it, or they won't like me, or I'm going to feel threatened, or whatever it is? You know, I don't care. I'm just going to share it. Boom. You've broken the pattern. Even if you're doing it kicking and screaming, you're breaking the pattern, right? Because you're beginning to create a new Grand Canyon. Think about the Grand Canyon. That's our behavior that we've learned, that we keep doing over and over, over and over and over and over our whole life. And then you see this little trickle next to it. That's the way it is. But slowly you start to build up that trickle until it becomes the Grand Canyon. And that's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get to the point that being ourselves, being natural, having our spirituality, of being whole, being whoever we happen to be, that will become the Grand Canyon, and everything else will feel foreign. Like, what was that? Oh yeah, I don't know. I must have been having a bad hair day that day. So, does anyone else have anything to share tonight? Looks like not. So, I would like to thank you so much for being with us tonight. And those of you who chatted, we love that. We appreciate it. You can leave comments later if you come after the show. Please go ahead and leave your comment. And we do on Thursday nights, James and I do a program of music called Magical Improvs with the Kindred Spirits Band. And that's at 7 p.m. Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Pacific time. And we'll be back here next Wednesday, God willing, and the creek don't rise. We'll be here at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. And we hope to see you then.